All right, before we start, if you or someone you know can make a sick intro, hit me up. I'll shout you out, use it in every video, and probably act like I always had a pro-level intro. Right now, I'm just out here raw-dogging the start of every video, and honestly, it's tragic. Anyway, today we're building an iron farm. Infinite iron. No more mining. No more struggling. Just pure, unlimited resources. Sounds great, right? Only problem? I have no idea what I'm doing. No tutorial, no blueprint. Just vibes, and a vague understanding of how this is supposed to work. Will it be efficient? Maybe. Will it be an absolute disaster? Also maybe. But while I'm fumbling through this build, we're also diving into Exodus 3 and 4, where Moses gets the wildest mission of his life. God literally speaks to him through a burning bush and tells him, "Hey, go free my people from Egypt." And instead of being like, "Wow, what an honor," Moses is just like, you sure about that? Doubt. Excuses, trying to get out of something big because it feels way too impossible. Sound familiar? Yeah, we've all been there, but here's the thing. God doesn't wait for people to be ready. He just calls them to trust. So today, winging it, figuring it out as we go, and proving that sometimes you just got to step up, even when you don't feel ready. Let's get into it. By the end of this video, you'll understand one of the most powerful moments in the Bible, when Moses comes face to face with God at the burning bush. You'll see how doubt, fear, and excuses almost stopped him from stepping into his purpose, and how that might be happening in your own life too. You'll learn why Moses didn't think he was the right person, how God responded, and what this story teaches us about trusting in something bigger than ourselves. And if you stick around to the end, I'll share my personal advice on handling doubt, stepping up to challenges, and what I've learned from this story myself. So don't click off. You won't want to miss it. So Moses is out in the wilderness just taking care of some sheep. Nothing special, nothing exciting. Just another normal day. And then he sees something strange. A bush is on fire, but it's not burning up. It's just staying on fire. That's not normal. So he gets curious and walks over to check it out. And the second he does, he hears a voice calling his name. Moses! Moses! At this point, most people would be running in the opposite direction. A talking fire? Yeah, no thanks. But Moses doesn't run. He stays. And then God tells him something huge. I have seen the suffering of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries, and I've come down to rescue them. And guess what, Moses? I'm sending you to do it. Now imagine you're Moses in this moment. You're just a shepherd. You're not a warrior. You're not a leader. And suddenly God himself is telling you, hey, go take on the most powerful empire in the world and free millions of people. Moses does exactly what most of us would do. He panics. He starts coming up with every excuse possible. First, he says, who am I to do this? And God's answer is simple. I will be with you. But Moses isn't done doubting. He asks, what if no one believes me? So God gives him proof. He tells Moses to throw his staff on the ground and it turns into a snake. Then he tells him to pick it up and it turns back into a staff. God also gives him another sign. His hand turns diseased, then is instantly healed. That should be enough proof, right? But Moses still isn't convinced. He says, I don't speak well. I'm slow with words. And God just says, who made your mouth? Who gave humans the ability to speak? I will help you. And then, after all that, Moses just says, please send someone else. At this point, God actually gets mad, but even then, he doesn't give up on Moses. Instead, he sends his brother Aaron to help him. But he makes one thing very clear. Moses is still the one he has chosen. Some people try to say this whole thing was just a hallucination, like maybe Moses was seeing things. But that doesn't make sense. This wasn't just a vision in his head. The bush was really there. God spoke clearly. He gave physical proof, miracles that happened in front of him. Moses wasn't imagining this. He was being called to something bigger than himself. And that's what's so powerful about this story. Moses felt unqualified. He didn't think he was the right guy. But God didn't need him to be perfect. He just needed him to trust. And that's the same for us. How many times do we doubt ourselves? How many times do we feel like we're not ready for what's in front of us? But God doesn't wait for us to feel ready. He just asks us to step forward. Moses doubted. He made excuses. But in the end, he said yes. And because of that, he became one of the greatest leaders in history. So maybe you are in that same spot. Maybe God is calling you to something bigger, and you're coming up with every reason why you're not the right person for it. But if God calls you, he'll make a way. That's the story of Moses and the burning bush. And maybe, just maybe, it's your story too. You know, I relate to Moses a lot more than I'd like to admit. When I started this channel, I had so many doubts. I mean, who am I to talk about the Bible? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I misinterpret something? What if, without meaning to, I somehow disgrace God instead of honouring him? That thought used to paralyse me. Because let's be real, this isn't just talking about Minecraft. This is God's word. And that's a big deal. I almost didn't start this channel at all because of that fear. I kept thinking, there are people way smarter than me. People who know theology better. People who have studied this their whole lives. Why would anyone listen to me? And that's exactly what Moses said to God. Exodus 3:11. Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? And God didn't answer with, because you're the best for the job. He just said, I will be with you. That hit me hard, because I realised I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have all the answers. If I'm doing this for God, and if I'm doing it with the right heart, he will be with me. And maybe that's you right now. Maybe there's something you want to start. A YouTube channel, a creative project, a job, a ministry. But fear is keeping you stuck. Maybe you're afraid of failing. Maybe you're afraid of what people will think. Maybe you're afraid you're not good enough. Moses was afraid too. He had excuses. He tried to back out. And still, God chose him. So I'm telling you right now, if there's something God has put in front of you, do it scared. Do it even if you're unsure. Because if he's calling you, he's not asking for perfection. He's asking for trust. That's why I'm here, making these videos even when I still have doubts. And if you're on the edge of stepping into something big, I want to tell you exactly what I had to tell myself. Go for it. Because God isn't looking for people who have it all together. He's looking for people who will say yes. You know, one of the biggest lessons I've learned, both from Moses' story and just from life, is that you have to start before you feel ready. I used to think trusting God meant waiting until I had everything figured out, until I had all the answers, until I was fully prepared. But that's not trust, that's just wanting control. Look at Exodus 4:12. After Moses gives excuse after excuse, God doesn't say, wait until you feel ready. He says, now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. Now go, start, move forward. That's trust. It's saying, I don't have it all figured out, but I know the one who does, so I'll go anyway. And the funny thing, that's exactly how life works. You don't learn by sitting there thinking about it forever. You learn by doing. I mean, look at literally anything. Minecraft, for example. When you first started playing, you didn't know what you were doing. You probably punched a tree with your bare hands for way too long, tried to mine iron with a wooden pickaxe, or got blown up by a creeper because you didn't know they even existed. But did you quit? You figured it out as you went. And that's exactly how trusting God works. Look at Abraham in Genesis 12. God tells him, leave your country, your people, and your father's household and go to the land I will show you. No map, no destination details, just go. Trust me. Or look at Peter walking on water in Matthew 14. He didn't get a guarantee that it would work. Jesus just said, come. And Peter had to step out of the boat before he knew for sure he wouldn't sink. That's faith, starting before you feel ready, moving forward before you have all the answers, trusting that God will provide what you need along the way. And I know this personally because that's how this channel started. I didn't have the perfect setup. I didn't know if anyone would watch. But I felt like God put this idea on my heart. And instead of sitting around waiting for the perfect moment, I just started. And guess what? I'm still figuring it out, still learning, still growing. But that's the whole point. So if you're sitting there waiting for the perfect time to start something, let me be real with you. It's never going to feel like the perfect time. You're never going to feel 100% ready. But if God is calling you to something, He's not asking for perfection. He's asking for obedience. And obedience means starting. Even when you don't feel ready, even when you're unsure, even when you're terrified. Because Moses wasn't ready, Abraham wasn't ready, Peter wasn't ready. But they stepped out anyway. And if they could do it, so can you. So stop waiting. Stop making excuses. Start now. Figure it out as you go, because when you trust God, you don't need all the answers. You just need to take the next step. All right, let's bring this home. Moses didn't feel ready. He doubted. He made excuses. He straight up tried to get out of his calling. And yet, God still chose him. Not because he was perfect, not because he had all the answers, but because God's power is bigger than our weaknesses. Maybe right now you're standing in front of your own burning bush moment. You feel like there's something big in front of you, something you're supposed to do, something you're meant for. But you're hesitating. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's doubt. Maybe you're looking for every reason why you're not the right person. But let me ask you this. What if Moses had let his fear stop him? The Israelites would have stayed in slavery. The Red Sea would have never parted. The 10 Commandments, the miracles, the entire foundation of faith that followed. All of it could have been lost if Moses had said no. And what if you were in that same position? What if there's something God is calling you to? Something that could change your life, your family, your future, maybe even the lives of others. But you're sitting back, making excuses, waiting for the right time. Here's the truth. There is no right time. There is only now. Exodus 4:12. God told Moses, now go, I will help you, and will teach you what to say. Not later, not when you feel ready. Now, so if there's something you've been holding back on, starting that thing, stepping into that role, trusting God with something big, this is your sign to go. Stop waiting. Start moving. Step into it. Because God doesn't wait for perfect people. He just calls people willing to trust him. That's it for today's video. If this hit home for you, let me know in the comments. What's something you've been hesitating on that you know you need to step into? And if you want more Bible stories, faith lessons, and fire Minecraft builds, make sure to subscribe. And listen, if you're an animator, seriously, hit me up. See you in the next one.